Hey everybody. Well, we're back on the LS heads, and I'm doing the exhaust ports. Well, I've already done them, but I'm evening everything out. I'm contouring everything in. Uh, yeah, get my hand out of the way, trying to make it straight. And you look at stuff, it looks pretty good. But one way to tell if you have something the way you want it is to feel it with your finger. And like I can feel some low spots in here. Does it kill it off? No. But I want this as straight as I can get it and contour as good as I can get it. And I don't know if you can tell or not, this is Dykem I use. They have spray you can use to make your line with, but when you scribe with your gasket, you don't really have to go all the way over to this line. If you're just cleaning up a pair of LS heads, you don't have to go and get that carried away, because the wall is actually over here, and you're forcing that runner just to match that line. If you're not tapering the rest of this out even, then there's no sense you just scribing this and getting in there and going to that line right there, because you'll have the runner actually out, coming out on an angle. And anybody that's starting out, I recommend starting out porting. I'll finish what I was going to say. And you're not used to porting, and you're using a cutter, carbide bit, or something aggressive that takes a lot of metal, stay on the inside of this line and give yourself some leeway. Don't go all the way up to this line, because you're going to be tapering this in. And what I use to finish off my job with, and I'll use this for the whole job sometimes, are these sanding rolls. You get them at Harbor Freight. They come with this here, and they come in different shapes and sizes. Some are shaped like a cone, some are flatter, and then of course you can see what grit you get in the pack. They're like, well, it says 52 pieces, and you get the prices from around $22 to $25, $26, depending if they're on sale. I don't know, they're never the same price when I go in there. It says right here, max speed, 2,500 RPM. If you think that doesn't matter, they'll get hot just like a bit will, and then they don't want to work as well, and they'll burn out, and your 80 grit will wind up being a 120 grit or less. But yeah, I'm just using my faithful drill, guys, and I already have one of these thingamajiggies in it. See, it's already in there. So what we'll do, take this here and run the drill backwards so it don't go on like I just did. And you put that on. Now I got this on backwards, guys. I'll tell you, I'm such a mess. Now actually, guys, I put this on backwards for a reason. And it's because I'm tapering my exhaust port, and I'm only doing the edge right here because I have the wall pretty much how I want it, all the way back. So I'm just tapering the port about, well, let me see if I can get the camera on there. There's a letter that's on this, right past that letter, and letter right here I'm talking about, fellas, indentations, D or something they put on the casting. But there's a high spot right here. Now back here, you'll go through. There's a water jacket. So I'm not going all the way back to here. I'm just evening this out. And I put this on backwards because that contours to where I want this to be. So I wanted to show you guys this real quick. I'm not going to bore you with this too much. An LS head's already a good head. This is something I'm doing, but these heads, if you just clean them up a little bit, you don't have to raise the port or anything. This car's getting a lot of nitrous to it. That the car these heads are going on, and that's why I'm doing the exhaust the way I'm doing it. And plus, I like it to ramp up. And he has a decent size header. Keep your headers in mind whenever you do something like this, because if you have a stock manifold on your, if you're doing a pair of these for like a truck or something, you open your exhaust up too much, then your exhaust port will be bigger than your header or your exhaust manifolds. You don't want that, because that will totally go against what you're trying to do. But what I wanted to show you guys, you can tell and feel when your taper is starting to get where you want it, because what will happen, you can feel this drag across here, and if you don't push and press real hard, you can actually feel where it's grabbing the metal and where it wants to level and where it doesn't want to level. So we'll see if you guys can notice that. Right there, grabbing metal, grabbing metal, grabbing metal, no metal. So the high spot is right here, and that's right where I'm trying to even out. Whether it be a sanding roll or a carbide bit, you don't want to stay in one spot, because it doesn't take long to put a low spot. So always keep your die grinder or whatever you're using moving back and forth, and check your work frequently. It wouldn't take much to put a low spot and you wouldn't realize it. So don't just stay there grinding for 5 minutes. Do a little bit, check it, do a little bit, check it. If you have stuff in your way, metal laying in your way, blow it out so you can see. And like I said, check it with your finger. You can always feel with your fingers more than you can see with your eyes. I'm going to raise this up a little bit, fellas, so you can see better, hopefully, and put a little bit more angle on here. Maybe that can show you better. I hope that turned out better for you. It's never the same when I'm looking through here, guys. I'm trying to contour this corner straight across and into this corner where it's all one smooth motion. I should mention that moving this back and forth also helps too. Just be careful if you are using something like this here that you're not holding down, because what will happen, you'll be putting pressure on the outside and you'll be moving the port where you don't want it. I have the scribe right here, I don't know if you can see, but it wouldn't take a whole lot. And when you first start out doing this stuff, it's hard to think to hold this straight. And especially even me, I get tired and I'll find myself dropping down. So I just thought I'd mention that. Tired now, fellas, really. But I'm always tired, but that's okay. High spot. You guys notice how stop hopping is starting to smooth out, so it's not hopping as much. And I'm not, like I said, don't put a whole lot of pressure on there. And don't run your die grinder or whatever you're using. I'm using a drill. Don't run it any faster than you really need to. It doesn't help. I'm after shape, not size, fellas. That's what I'm after. I'm just shaping it how I want. The ports are already pretty big. I really wish I didn't have to make them any bigger to make them how I want. But I'm after the exhaust to go towards the top more, so that's why I'm doing this. It ain't because I'm making these bigger, because I think it needs to be a bigger hole. A lot of people don't explain that, and you'll see them porting. Well, we're porting these heads like this today, and that's all you hear is that they're porting. They don't say why they're porting it. If I had a choice, I would have this port raised up even more and have it go more up on an angle of the floor. And don't forget, we're upside down here, guys. One thing I should mention, I use Dykem on here. And most guys, they'll use something to spray this with, and then they'll scribe the whole port. One of the mistakes I think we all make as being guys on YouTube showing things, you really wouldn't want to scribe this whole port, because somebody starting out could forget this head's upside down and wind up porting the floor. So that's why I got this edged off here. This shows me how far I want to really go when I'm doing the sidewalls and blending this in. I don't want to hit the floor, so this reminds me that this is how far up. I don't want to go past this right here, because I don't want to touch the floor. And I'll always make my marks a little bit less where it's on the conservative side. So that helps there. Because that way, if something did happen where I got too carried away or wasn't paying attention or on an angle or a shadow and I couldn't see good, it wouldn't affect the other part that I didn't want to touch. I hope I'm explaining that good enough, fellas. But the exhaust ports, like I said, they're not bad on the LS. It's just that I'm trying to make them better. I know a guy that has a shop. He just does the normal stuff to these heads, little areas that he knows needs to be addressed. He's pulling over 300 CFM out of them heads without doing the crazy stuff that I do. I don't know how much more than that. I've never discussed it with him, but I know his cars are fast. So, but these are the extreme heads I was telling you about. And unless I want to really, the only way I could do these heads any better, I'll put it to you this way, is to actually go through, weld them back up, and go completely wild on them as far as putting metal back in them. that would be the only other way I would know to improve these heads. It's just totally where you'd be cutting them and raising things, and these heads, you don't need to do all that too. Unless you're trying to do something like a aftermarket head to try to match something like that, that's the only way. You'd need to get carried away with these heads. These heads make good power. Just like I said with a cleanup, if they're flowing 300 or over 3, you're easily going to make a 500 horsepower engine just with a off-the-shelf cam. You can use the worst ported intake. The worst intake ported, I'll put it to you that way. How do I know that? Because we did it. We used the Holley intake. Everybody said that's 50 horse shy of the Victor. I don't know that, but that's what everybody says. It's been tested several times, so I'll just take their word for it. But I ported that to the extreme side, and I've told you fellas before, the engine made on a stock 5.3 stock piston, just a motor out of a car, truck, whatever it came out of. It made 504 horsepower. So that was one of them deals where that's proven. And I'm not doing anything on the extreme side until I have somebody tell me to. If I was just trying to do a cleanup on a pair of heads, somebody said they wanted 450 horsepower or touching the 500 mark, I'd probably just do the bad areas in them and go that route. If it was just a nice little street car and the guy wasn't really trying to set no records or do anything crazy, that's all you'd have to do to these heads. Because they make 400 or 500 horsepower without hardly doing much to them. So unless you're trying to do something on the extreme side like I'm doing, that's my point. There's no reason to go crazy like I'm doing right here. This car here, we're trying to do something with this car that these heads are going on. And if it does the number we think it was going to see, you guys will be seeing that. And if it doesn't do it, I'll be telling you that I did all this work for nothing. So you guys would know not to waste your time in case somebody ever wanted to try to say, hey, I seen this guy on YouTube. He went nuts on them. I might say, yeah, fellas, I went nuts on them. And the other heads that I didn't go as crazy on, the car ran just as good. So we're going to see. That's how you find out things, though, guys, doing things like this. Say, hey, I got another 100 hours over them heads that I did before, and it didn't pay off. So we'll find out. This port right here has this letter in it. It's always harder in here for some reason, too. So I'm doing the toughest port right here as far as grinding. Getting there. I can tell how smooth this is getting. That's starting to level out where I want it. Starting to get good, guys. Give you a closer look. Starting to look clean. There's no nasty high or low spots. Nothing terrible. And as soon as I get these all the same, then I'll be switching to a lighter paper than this. This is the coarse. And I'll be switching to one of the 120 grits. If you want to get really carried away, you can even smooth this out with a 200, a 300, a 400. You can polish the exhaust as much as you want to. So that never hurts anything. Intake side, different story. You can let that thing bump around in there and it doesn't hurt anything. And some guys will say, well, but my car's fuel injected. I don't need to worry about atomization. It still don't hurt it. It's not going to hurt a thing if you leave the intake side a little bit chopped up. I don't mean where it's nasty. I don't mean where it's going to puddle fuel. I'm just talking about if you had like a stock type casting, like where it just looks a little like this, like the factory casting would be. I don't think it would hurt it at all. But I will say this, where it starts going down towards the seat area, then you can smooth it out. Around your seats, I always make sure the seats are very smooth, even in the bow area towards the seat. I leave some of that a little bit rough in certain places, and then I make sure it's very smooth around where it goes towards the seat area. So that's what I do. That's on the intake side. The exhaust side, I want that smooth all the way off the seat, all the way out. So I hope I didn't confuse you on that, because I get ahead of myself at times. Actually, I get ahead of myself all the time. Hey guys, I want to tell you, I didn't even realize it, but my son put out a new video. Adam Grover Boys Racing. If you guys want to check it out, he's doing an upgrade with the S10, and he did a budget thing with the shocks that he's putting on that, struts or whatever he's putting on it. I can't remember. He might have to make brackets to modify it, and he talks about the travel, how much travel he needs in the suspension, and he actually bought a couple different shocks or struts. I think they were struts from different people, and one's for a Ford pickup, so he's going to make it work. So you guys might want to tune in on that and check that out. And he don't make all the mistakes I make. He just started doing this himself reluctantly, just trying to help people. And I mean, we're never perfect in our segments because he just does it like I do. He goes with it. But he thinks a little bit clearer than I do. I don't have the young mindset that he has. But anyway, guys, this is the right way if you're doing something. That's the way that's meant to be put on. But that's if I was doing something like here to get back in there, and I just wanted to touch that and kiss off on that. I could just fall right there. So if you just want to like to use a tip, get around these areas, because the fats part wouldn't get in there like you want. Now, if you're doing a bow area and you had to sweep back and forth from side to side, and you're just trying to cut down a high peak, then you could use that, because I would just cover the area that you want it to cover across. Like this is raised up here, but if I go much more on this, I'm going to be through, fellas. And I know that. I don't think anybody's cut these down as much as I have on a pair of these heads. I gotta say, I seen a guy on YouTube, and I've seen this a few times. I've had other people tell me that they've seen shops doing work that look just like mine. But I could look at this guy's video and think I'm looking at the pair of heads that I did. And it's so weird because you don't see this too often. I don't flow test my stuff, and I just told you guys, anybody that follows me, you know this. I said they flow tested 320 on a pair of heads I did. Not this extreme. They're less extreme than what's on our car. Will these outflow them? I don't know, but they flowed 320 for a pair of heads I did for this one guy. That guy's heads flowed 320. Different flow benches. Would they flow the same on the same flow bench? Maybe his without flow mine. I don't know. But I did notice his exhaust was done like this, except it wasn't quite as extreme. But when you listen to him explain that, he has a sonic tester, fellas, so he knows something I don't know. He knows how dangerous that is. That's what he knows. But I don't have enough sense to realize it. I just keep going until I get it how I want, and sit there with my hands shaking, thinking, well, am I going to go through? Well, if I do, I have to fix it. Such is life. I just thought I'd throw that in. Little small talk. But anyway, fellas, I hope I covered in this segment what I wanted to cover. I try to help out and think of guys that are out there that are going to try to do this themselves. And like I said, I could go to extreme and hog this all the way out where the scribe line is. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. It probably wouldn't even help at all. Do I know that for sure? No. I don't. But I do know this. The thinner you make this wall, the more danger you're in as far as going through. So, what little bit you'd pick up making this real thin and trying to hog this out more than it needs to be, because they already have a good look to them as far as size, it wouldn't pay off as far as what you might pick up. And even if it did pick up a little bit by hogging it out, is it worth you taking that chance? Especially if you're just doing a little street rod or upping your performance a little bit. I don't think so. We're trying to set a number with these heads, and we have an extreme number in mind, and that's why this is all getting pushed to the limit like this. So anybody watching this, you don't have to be doing extreme stuff that I've done to these heads. I'll put it to you that way, because you don't want to get yourself into a mess. And I surely don't want to be responsible putting what I'm doing out there and then having somebody try to imitate it anyway. Don't do that to me, guys. Don't mess your heads up because you say, hey, I seen this guy on YouTube. Well, you might see a guy on YouTube chop a tree down and have it fall on him. You don't want to do that, do you? No. And you don't want to do something like I'm doing and then ruin your heads. With that, fellas, I want to thank you for checking out what I'm up to and taking time out of your day or night. And like I keep telling you guys, I'm going to get these done. I'm hammering on them every night. And we're going to try to get back on the big block Ford stuff. And then we're going to try to get the Mustang running. I have to get the fuel tank back in it and the pump. So here's what I might do. I thought, how am I going to get the truck running in the car and work full time? So I think what I'm going to wind up doing is on the good days, I might work on the Mustang and save the head work and the 460 stuff for night time. So you guys might be seeing a couple different segments a day, and I'll tell you that right now. But then again, the way they slow my phone down, I might not have to do one but every couple days. So before I put my foot in my mouth on that one, that's my plan, guys. So Saturday comes, Sunday comes, I'm going to try to work on the car. And I have some things to check out on that. And then the nighttime, when I lose my sunlight, I'll be doing the head work for the 460. Because that way, I kind of get two things done. Where if I was just hammering at the 460 and trying to knock that out, the car doesn't get touched. So I just thought about that. Thought I'd throw that in there. Then you guys know what I'm up to. And you can say, that might be a better idea, Terry. Yeah, you get two things done instead of one, or part of nothing. So that's my plan, fellas. But anyway, guys, thank you for stopping in and seeing what I'm up to. God bless yous, and I appreciate you guys. Take care.